What, in your opinion, is the creepiest mystery in the world? Story 1. The Bronze Age collapsed. Many great and advanced civilizations circled the Mediterranean around 1200 before Christ, but then in a span of only 20 to 50 years, the cities were destroyed or abandoned, and the surviving people retreated away from the coast to small inland settlements. All of the empires apart from Assyria and some of Egypt collapsed, and the area entered a dark age, with centuries passing before such advanced empires rose again. Why? No one really knows. There are records of the sea people coming with advanced weapons, foreign invaders perhaps, along with indications of a volcanic eruption, but still, such sudden collapse of such large and advanced civilizations is concerning and perhaps should act as a warning to us now. Story 2. The Marfa Lights. I went out and saw them several years ago, and it's haunted me ever since. None of the explanations make sense. The lights bob and weave in ones, twos, and threes. They shoot up and go back and forth. And the creepiest part is that sometimes look like they're getting close to you, but it's hard to tell because of the darkness. My friend and I saw something like this when we were younger. It was during the day, however. We were riding our bikes across the town, and we came to this open field behind which there's a small hill with a couple of houses on it. We made a sudden stop when we saw an elliptical shape flying in the air next to the hill. It was glowing, changing colors from yellow to orange to red. The thing started slowly making a turn behind the hill till it completely disappeared. It then came back and now went to the front of the hill. It then slowly flew up a bit before shooting super fast into the sky and disappearing. We both drove back to my friend's house like crazy and told her mom what we saw, but she wouldn't believe us. That was until a couple of neighbors came by and told us that they saw the same thing. I also shared this story to my family. My grandma, who's very religious, lives a mile away from us in a village. She told me that when the whole village worked in the fields back in the 80s and 90s, they saw the glowing orbs in the sky as well. I still get goosebumps just thinking about this. Story 3. A bit of an obscure one that I never see people talking about. The case of Jure Grando, a Croatian man who lived back in the 1600s who was said to be a vampire. The legend tells that for 16 years after his death, Jure would arise from his grave by night and terrorize the village. The village priest, Giorgio, who had buried Jure 16 years previously, discovered that at night somebody would knock on the doors around the village. And on whichever door he knocked, someone from that house would die within the next few days. Jure also appeared to his terrified widow in her bedroom, who described the corpse as looking as though he was smiling and gasping for breath, and would then use her. When Father Giorgio eventually came face to face with the vampire, he held out a cross in front of him and yelled, "Behold Jesus Christ, you vampire! Stop tormenting us!" The bravest of the villagers, led by the prefect Miho Radetic, chased and tried to end the vampire by piercing his heart with a stick, but failed because the stick just bounced off of his chest. One night later, 9 people went to the graveyard carrying a cross, lamps, and a hawthorn stick. They dug up Jure's coffin and found a perfectly preserved corpse with a smile on its face. Father Giorgio said, "Look, Strigan, there is Jesus Christ who saved us from hell and died for us. And you, Strigan, you cannot have peace." They then tried to pierce its heart again, but the stick could not penetrate its flesh. After some exorcism prayers, Stipan Milicic, one of the villagers, took a saw and sawed the head off the corpse. As soon as the saw tore his skin, the vampire screamed and blood started to flow from the cut. According to folklore, peace finally returned to the region after Jure's decapitation. Story 4. White people are left to starve. People who introduce themselves as the Croatan tribe live in the area. White settlers proceed to be jerks by accusing the tribe of stealing things. Everything gets very complicated and very violent. The Croatan tribe feels bad because even though these guys moved into their lands, they are suffering. They see women and children starving. The Croatan tribe says, "Hey, we see that you're having a hard time. Want to live with us?" Or possibly, "Aha, now that you're vulnerable, we're taking you prisoner." It's hard to guess. We only have the settlers' words to go off of, and that's just one side of an extremely biased story. Settlers are either overpowered by the tribe and barely have enough time to leave a note saying why they attacked them, or, what I choose to believe, the starving colonists said, "That's actually really cool of you. Thank you. I should probably leave a note saying where we went. They carved the tribe's name into a tree. Maybe they left a longer note on paper somewhere. But paper isn't exactly known for its durability. Maybe the settlers were taken in as slaves, as servants, as prisoners of war that intended to be ransomed. Maybe the white people went native and adapted well to the lifestyle. They wouldn't be the first white people or the last to decide that Native American life was way more fun than being a Puritan. Blonde-haired and blue-eyed descendants began showing up in the native families of the areas. It's not hard to guess why there were suddenly half-white babies so close to a place that was abandoned by white people. Story 5, the spooky light near Quapaw, Oklahoma. I'm terrible at explaining this, so I'd suggest you go to Google or something. I went to go see it on one of the best nights ever recorded. It split in two, was unnaturally bright, changed from white to yellow, then to red. It blinked a couple of times too. Anyways, on a hill near it, people set up some good cameras pointed at the spook light and send other people to walk closer to it all while having radio connection. The people walking to it reported that it had gone away after a certain point, but the camera people still saw it on camera. An old legend, if I remember correctly, is that it's the lantern of a Native American boy who had fallen off a cliff or something. Story 6. I would say the Dyatlov incident. It occurred in February 1959 in Russia, and what happened was 9 hikers died while trekking up the northern Ural Mountains. At first, there were 10 of them, but one got sick and decided they wouldn't be able to make the trek. Then a week later, there was no word from the 9 hikers, so they went to investigate with the one hiker who got sick. When they came to the campsite, there was clothes everywhere and the tents were tiered open. As they kept walking down the trail, they would come across their bodies. None of them had any clothes on, which showed they were in a rush, running from something. At first, it seemed they died from hypothermia, but the last 3 bodies showed signs of physical trauma. One even had a fractured skull, while the other 2 had severe chest fractures. They concluded an avalanche or such, but they found that the tents had been cut open from the inside so they could get out. So they decided to check their cameras just to make sure, and found a photo of blurred lights in the sky. A nearby village also said they saw these lights but had no idea what they were. Another thing was they found radiation on the clothes that were scattered around the campsite. They closed the case as an avalanche combined with hypothermia, but it still doesn't factor in all that they found. I may be off a bit or forgetting some of the incident, so please tell me if I missed something. Story 7. Mary Shotwell. Little has always kept me up at night. Went missing after shopping at Lenox Mall in Atlanta in 1965. She was a newlywed, so she was called the missing bride. She was reported missing by coworkers the next morning, but her car was no longer in the Lenox parking lot. Her husband was out of town, and when he returned and went to Lenox to look for her, her car was now there. The car had her groceries, blood spots, and a folded pair of women's underwear on the console. Lots of weird details in this case, like the car being returned in daylight, her credit card being used, and her being spotted in an NC under duress and with 2 men. Her body has never been found, and the case is still unsolved. Story 8. Last year I worked for DEMA, Danish Emergency Management Agency. We were called out to a case of a man losing contact with his partner who was inside a chimney at a Danish art project. He was supposed to uninstall some lights, but when his partner radioed him, there was radio silence. His partner was controlling the mobile crane used to lower him inside, which was the only way up there. When we arrived, the man had been inside the chimney and cylinder for about 2 or 3 hours. There were drones installed with heat-reading cameras in the air trying to see if he was alive. And when we got the picture, his body was still warm. Since we had no way of getting up there, we had called for another mobile crane with which we could get to the top. My partner and our sergeant went up, and when they pulled out the man, he was already dead. We couldn't figure out how it happened, but when we got the report back, it said he died from his injuries. But there was no major bruising on his body. I still don't know how he died till this day. Story 9, the Alien Lighthouse Disappearances. I'm not going to call this the creepiest mystery in the world, but like the Dyatlov Pass incident, it has so many questions left unanswered and allows one to speculate. For those who don't know, here's a simplified version. In December, a small ship was heading towards the alien lighthouse. Upon docking, the captain was surprised to see no lighthouse keeper at the docks waiting for their arrival. He blew the horn a few times and even sent up a flare to get their attention, but still no one came. Joseph Moore, who was set to replace one of the lighthouse keepers, rowed ashore and climbed up the steep stairs to the lighthouse. Once at the lighthouse, Moore is presented with a strange scene. The lighthouse door is unlocked. Two of the three oilskinned coats are missing. Continuing to the kitchen, the sight gets weirder. The kitchen clock had stopped working. A chair overturned almost as if someone jumped in a hurry. Half-eaten food left out. An investigation was launched to find the three missing lighthouse keepers. But they didn't find much except for what was in the lighthouse log. On the 12th of December, Thomas Marshall, the second assistant, wrote of severe winds the likes of which I've never seen before in 20 years. He also noticed that James Ducat, the principal keeper, had been very quiet and that the third assistant, William MacArthur, had been crying. The final log on the 15th simply reads, "Storm ended. Sea calm, God is over all." One of the answers to this disappearances is a crate connected to a supply crane had come loose, and the trio attempted to save it before losing it to the sea. But some struggle with this explanation as the bodies never washed ashore. Why hadn't one of the men taken his coat in such bad weather? How had three experienced lighthouse keepers been taken unaware by a wave? The last and strangest question is the weather, which was said to be calm and could be seen from the nearby Isle of Lewis, where it is said to be obscured during bad weather. We'll never really know what happened, but like the Dyatlov Pass, it's so full of questions we could speculate for hours. Story 10. The Beast of Gevaudan. In 1740s, France, an unknown creature started attacking and mauling people, mostly women and children. Descriptions from survivors varied from being like the largest wolf they'd ever seen, to red fur and the size of a cart horse, to as big as a bear with glowing red eyes. As hysteria spread, the beast allegedly gained the ability to walk upright and even speak. There were reports that the thing laughed at them when they prayed for God to save them. Its reign of terror finally ended when a wolf hunter named Jean Chastel finally shot the thing with what he claimed was a blessed silver bullet. Its body was intended to be sent to Paris for study, but decayed so badly in the interim as to be lost. Theories suggest the creature was anything from an exceptionally large wolf, or a pack of them. A hyena escaped from a private collection, a wolf-dog hybrid, possibly under the control of a human, or even a human serial killer wearing a hairy disguise. Story 11. It's just a personal story, but this one makes me uncomfortable in my own house. I live with my mom and grandmother in an 80s-built house in Oregon. One morning around 4 a.m., I got up to get a glass of water because I had cotton mouth. I walked into the kitchen to find a plate of scrambled eggs on the dining room table. My mom is a teacher and gets up pretty early for work, so I figured they were her breakfast. That afternoon, I got a call from my mom on her lunch break. She asked why I made scrambled eggs and left them on the table, and I said, "I didn't. I thought you did." She said she didn't and had no idea where they'd come from. My Nana is 93, can't walk without her walker, and needs help even getting out of bed. She has advanced Alzheimer's and couldn't cook a plate of eggs if she tried. I asked her that afternoon, "Nana, did you make eggs last night?" She sat silently and refused to answer. I asked her a few more times. She was keeping a secret for someone or something, and the sly and displeased look on her face still gives me the creeps. Story 12. The first thing I could think of was the story of the Erickson twins succumbing to a shared delusion known as folie à deux, trying to end themselves by running into traffic on the M6 repeatedly, getting hit by speeding motors and still having the energy to assault officers while screaming bloody murder about having their organs harvested, being released from custody, and murdering a man. Such a bizarre story, and it left me puzzled and creeped out for days simply because so many things were unexplained, and what was explained, folie à deux, or temporary shared insanity, just seemed too convenient. The footage of them running into traffic and the behavior of the twins was incredibly unsettling for me. I remember reading some crazy theories about the twins being a result of genetic experimentation or mind control and super soldiers. Definitely out there. Story 13. To be honest, the thing that freaks me out isn't well known at all. In fact, there's absolutely no information on it. I live in a small town in Alberta, Canada, and out in the rural farmland area, there's this one house that you have to take about a kilometer long to get to. The road is completely encased by wheat and trees and such. And when you finally get to the house, it's completely abandoned. Apparently, around 10 years ago, the people who lived there just left, and absolutely nobody knows what happened to them. They left all their furniture, all their clothes still in the drawers, they've left their vehicles, and even all the food. Since then, it's been destroyed by the weather and random people vandalizing. But the weird thing is that on their car that is still in the driveway, there are about 20, 25 bullet holes in the side of the car. Big holes, not buckshot pellets or even a pistol or, I don't know, 22, like automatic weapon holes. It's pretty creepy. Story 14. Not exactly an old famous mystery, but still gives me the creeps. It was an old bed. My girlfriend bought it at a rundown furniture shop for $100, and they drove it over in a minivan later that day. Sometime shortly after she bought it, it started happening. I don't know how else to explain it except that when you were lying in the bed and it was totally dark, there would be a scratching at one end, and the sheet would start to pull towards it. The bed and box spring were on the floor, so there wasn't an under the bed for anything to be hiding in or a frame to be catching the sheet. It felt just like when a cat is using the corner of a bed as a scratching post. Like there were small snapping sounds when the sheets and mattress fabric were released from whatever was pulling on them. Very audible, and you could feel it. We hadn't mentioned it with anyone yet. When a friend went to take a nap in the GF's room, then returned 15 minutes later saying, "There's something in your room and it's scratching at the bed." We tore that room apart multiple times looking for a mouse or an incredibly strong bug or anything. We searched the mattress and looked under the piece of fabric that covers the box springs. Her room was small. We never found anything. After moving, it happened once again. She called and had the store switch out her mattress because it was broken. They did. Scratching or pulling stopped. And those terrifying nights of pulling at the sheets that were being tugged off the bed remains a mystery to us all. Story 15. I've always found the story of Sarah L. Winchester to be monumentally creepy. After her husband died, a medium she hired told her that she was cursed by the spirits of everyone ever ended by a Winchester rifle. She was told that the only way to escape harm from the spirits was to continuously build her home. She ended up constructing her home nonstop for over 30 years. The result is a mammoth mansion with countless secret corridors and staircases that lead to absolutely nowhere. Contractors were pretty much given free rein to do whatever they felt like. Apparently, the ghost of Sarah Winchester roams around the mansion, forever lost in the maze halls. An ongoing torment after death from the spirits of fallen Winchester victims. Story 16. In middle school, a friend and I were playing around with some pretty high-grade walkie-talkies his dad had brought home. You know, just calling out to each other down the street, having fun like kids do. All of a sudden, we decided to play around with the channel frequency. After a while, we started hearing what we thought was helicopter chatter. Things about landing zones and what time to pick up certain things from the helipad, along with the low sound of chopper blades. Neat, we thought. We kept listening. All of a sudden, we heard, "Sir, I believe we have a security breach on this channel. We're tracking it now." We looked at each other. Yeah, right. This is some kind of prank. How could they know? All of a sudden, we heard a helicopter off in the distance, it being just barely visible. It looked almost like a news helicopter, except it was painted flat white. The chatter started again, and they said a bunch of things I can't really remember about the helicopter coordinating with people on the ground. All of a sudden, we saw three black unmarked vans roll by, SUVs, the kind with tinted windows. Think umbrella. They went down the block and right by us. Holy crap, was that because of us? So we went out onto the road. All of a sudden, a voice came out of the radio. Meatball one, stay off the pasta." We were confused. This happened the second we stepped on the road. We assumed our signal was meatball and the road was pasta. We tested it about 4 more times, stepping off, then back. Every time we hit the road, the same message came crackling through about a second later. Needless to say, as kids, we were scared and had no idea what to do. We knew we didn't want to end up in those black cars, though. So we shut off the radios and threw them off into the brush in the distance. In hindsight, it was only a few meters from us. That was pretty dumb. We ran home and hid. Nothing else happened the rest of the day. I don't live near an army base of any kind. Story 17. 5 or 6 years ago, I used to receive phone calls from an unidentified phone number whose voice was a little girl who would ask to talk to her father. The conversation would usually go, Is my dad there? No. Today I was supposed to talk to him. At some point, the little girl would hold the phone away, and it would sound like she was talking to someone else who I could barely hear before she would continue the conversation. Do you know where he is? I need to talk to him. Could you go get him? At that point, It would register in my head just how creepy and poltergeisty it really was, and then I would hang up the phone. This had only happened 2 or 3 times within the year, and the conversation never went anywhere, outside of this little girl wanting to talk to her dad. Story 18. I don't know if this is cool for you guys or not, but it's creepy for me. There are times that when I dream, it happens in real life. I get like 5 to 10 deja vus per month, but that's not the creepy part. I've been writing a dream journal ever since I got interested in lucid dreaming in 2009. There are several occasions that things happen in real life that were, in my dream journal, exactly the way it was portrayed. Last Sunday was my recent one. We went to a karaoke bar with some of my new friends. New means I just met them that day. In my dream, I remember we went inside the room, played some songs, and we had to move out of the room because something was wrong, but I didn't actually know why we had to go out, and I woke up wondering, who are these guys? Well, it happened in real life. Exact number of people, same room, same song being played, and we also have to move out of the room because the karaoke machine won't register the microphone. I checked my dream journal just to be sure it's legit, and it was, which is my first ever evidence that my dream came true. I'm not saying that I'm supernatural and crap like that, but I'm afraid that I would have a dream that would turn out to be a nightmare, and chances are it might happen in real life. I have no control over this, and it happens every once in a month or two. So far, no lotto numbers showed,